In this video we're going to look at Ethereum. Now Ethereum has seen a tremendous run and push into these all-time high areas, and we're currently battling a double top formation. I'm looking at this scenario, looking at a couple of possibilities, I'm looking at some key support levels and what I would like to see for a continuation push to the upside.
Hi, I'm Martin. I'm the founder of Captain Crypto's Compass. I'm a trader and a professor at the Financial Freedom Academy. I am passionate about helping you to achieve financial freedom through the art and the gift of trading. I will be providing you with actionable technical analysis and insights on your favorite cryptocurrency projects to help you make better and more informed decisions. If you're ready to take your trading to the next level, you're in the right place.
Now I've gone ahead and opened up the 1 week chart on Bitstamp for Ethereum, and there's a couple of key patterns that I want to draw attention to. Now the first was we saw a tremendous sell-off and liquidation event in Ethereum earlier this year in April. We can see that we formed a triple top and pushed all the way back down to the bottom end of our market structure here to the left pivots and found support at roughly this $1,500 to $1,400 area. Now since then, Ethereum has been on a tear. We can see that it has started pushing higher, breaking previous market structure, holding that as support, and finally we have managed to form a couple of green candles and push into our previous all-time high for Ethereum. So super exciting time for Ethereum. We can see that this $4,800 give or take is currently the battle zone, and we are flirting with the idea of printing a double top for Ethereum. So looking at this setup, looking at what we currently see, we can see we are far removed from the moving averages, 21 and 50 SMA, currently sitting at roughly $2,900 and $2,800, give or take. Logically see and expect that Ethereum has seen tremendous growth, but we are looking for that pullback to retest previous market structure, healthy market structure. If we can retest these previous pivot highs, that would be very healthy for me. So I'm looking at this breakout here. Looking at our momentum at the stochastics, on the stochastics RSI, we can see that the RSI is currently trading well above the 80 level, with the blue line still above the orange line. We can see that it has been here quite some time, since about May. We can see this elevated momentum to the upside. So I'd like to see this obviously hold, and in the back of my mind I do realize that we could actually break this 80 and have a consolidation period for Ethereum. But as long as we can maintain the stochastics RSI above the 80 level here, that would bode well, and we could even see a breakout above the previous all-time highs. So I'm looking at this, and there are a couple of scenarios that pop out. But to add a little bit more confluence to the idea of what we can expect, if we just look at the RSI as well, I've highlighted these patterns for us and key levels that we just need to keep an eye on. Now we can see that our previous pivots here in December 2020 and in February in 2024, we have created lower highs on the RSI, showing us a little bit of a downtrend here. And I've marked a couple of key areas of support and resistance that we just need to keep in mind on the RSI. We can see that we have not managed to reach this downtrend here, so that also gives confidence to the idea that we might actually see a retracement down into these key support levels, a little bit of a correction in Ethereum, finding support and possibly pushing up to the higher end of this downtrend on the RSI, putting it at roughly about the 79, almost 80 level. So that is also a positive sign for me. We can see that the momentum is still to the upside. We're creating higher highs and higher lows for the specific trend that we're currently in, and we are approaching these key resistance areas. So as long as we can maintain support in this band here, we can see in the previous pivot highs roughly about this 68 level, all the way back down to these key market pivots here at roughly about the 66 level. So if we do see a correction here, there is a possibility that we can see support rebound on these more bullish scenarios to actually retest this downtrend on the RSI. So what would that mean for price if we do see a scenario like that? And what would happen if we actually break this key market structure and come all the way back down to the 58 to 55 level on the RSI, and even flirting with the idea of coming back to this 50 level on the RSI for the Ethereum? So let me paint a couple of scenarios for you. If we do manage to find support on these higher pivots here with the RSI, we will be looking at a potential retest of these key pivot highs to the left hand side here. Now we can see that these pivot highs currently sitting at roughly about $4,090. We can see we had 3 pivot highs in this area. Now measuring this move and just highlighting this area for us from the top wicks to the bottom of the body candles here, we can then see that this gives us a support band range of roughly about between 4,100 all the way back down to this $3,850 area. So if we do see a double top pattern here, this would be a very bullish continuation retesting the previous pivot highs, finding support, and then potentially pushing and breaking our all-time highs. Now, to visually put this in perspective, we would then see a rejection pullback into this area, push higher, breaking the all-time highs, which would be fantastic, and finding support on top of that for a potential push higher for Ethereum. With the RSI, this would then coincide with the idea of finding support on these higher top pivots here and then pushing into this trend line, and we can see how Ethereum reacts to this downtrend on the RSI here to gauge how far we can go up. But that's a very bullish scenario that I can see for Ethereum.
Hey, hope you're enjoying the content so far. Please remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications.
The other possibility here is that we actually run out of steam with the Stochastics RSI, and we actually managed to fall below the 80 level. So looking at the Stochastics RSI, we can see we're trading well above the 80 level. If we do break this 80 level here, we can see that we usually have a strong momentum to the downside as we break this 80 level, and this could put further pressure on these lower targets for the Stochastics RSI, even creating a consolidation phase where we see the Stochastics RSI come all the way back down to the bottom of the 20 level and consolidating here for a couple of weeks before regrouping its momentum and pushing to the upside. So if that does happen and we break this 80 level, then we will be looking at these next support levels that I've highlighted here. Now, key market structure pivots, we can see these pivot highs here, as well as the 786 Fibonacci from the large measured move from the previous bull market tops to bottoms, highlighted the 786 here at roughly about $3,400, and we can see that this would then push us all the way back down to these previous pivot lows we saw in Ethereum here at roughly this $3,600 to about $3,600 to about $3,400, give or take. Now, the golden pocket retracement or support level for this measured move, just taking a Fibonacci extensions from the last pivots we saw, from this pivot low to pivot high to pivot low, gave us the golden pocket at this between the 0.5 and 618, sitting between about $3,300 to about $3,000. Now, what's interesting about this level here with the Fibonacci's, this golden zone here, we can see that both the anchored VWAP, this white line from the bottom pivot, and the 50 and the 21 SMA are currently moving towards this key support zone here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a rejection now, a double top rejection, and breaking these pivot highs to actually come down into this golden pocket between $3,300 and $3,000 on top of the moving averages. And this would be a prime area for reaccumulation for Ethereum if we do see a double top scenario play out, with the Stochastics breaking below the 80 level, pushing us all the way back down, resetting the momentum and finding support on these logical levels at the lower end of the price range for Ethereum. So that's also something I'm looking out for. This would then also coincide with the idea with the RSI to actually break this support and come and retest the lower end of the support bands between this 58 to 54, or even a lower correction to this 52 and 49 level. So this is what I'm seeing. If we do see this support zone break on the RSI, we hold support on top of the previous pivots. These pivots here at 4,100 to roughly about 3,850. This would be the most bullish correction, and then a potential push higher, breaking the all-time highs. But the other scenario is if we do see a correction here, we break these pivot highs, the RSI will break those support levels as well, and then we could see a larger and deeper correction into our support bands at the bottom here. And then I'd look at $3,300 to about $3,000 as our next key levels of accumulation. So that's what I'm currently seeing with Ethereum. It's looking positive. We have a lot of people have counting Ethereum out, saying it's dead, but we can see that Ethereum has come back with a vengeance. Now, this pump in Ethereum is also positive for our altcoins. We can see that money rotation usually goes from dollars to Bitcoin, Bitcoin to Ethereum, and then from Ethereum to the other alts. So we can see that this pump in Ethereum has boded well for a lot of the altcoins. We can see in the recent weeks we've seen a lot of increases for our lower cap alts, and this is because Ethereum has finally started waking up. So this is very positive for a general outlook for our altcoins as well, to see what that happens and what we can do. If we do see a correction, my previous Bitcoin video, I also highlighted key support levels. These levels would coincide with a deeper correction for Bitcoin as well. So I'd like to see these hold for a continuation push, finally breaking this all-time high and pushing to the upside. My targets for Ethereum for the bull run, looking at our previous cycle here, let me just highlight this for you, taking a Fibonacci retracements level from the previous pivot highs that we created in January 2018 all the way to the bottoms that were created in roughly December 2018, we can see that Ethereum managed to reach the orange line and the red line at the 1.2 and 1.4 Fibonacci extensions, and that marked the absolute top for Ethereum. If Ethereum were to repeat the same strength, taking a measured move with the Fibonacci retracements from the previous top to bottoms, gives us potential targets at roughly about 7,700 and roughly about $9,900, give or take. So we can see there is still some more upside potential for Ethereum if it were to repeat the same strength as it did during our previous bull run. So that's also a positive sign for me for Ethereum. But looking good. I can't wait to see what happens with Ethereum. And as always, peace and love and happy trading.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, hit the like button, hit the sub button, and hit the bell notifications. Also, remember to click the link in the description below to join my mailing list, where I'll be sending you free emails and trading videos, and also market report updates weekly to help you stay ahead of the herd. As always, this community would not be the same without you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Peace and love. See you next time.